Hello beautiful people, and welcome to the first episode in which we're gonna do some tests with this new hero, which you're seeing right here, Mr. ZHEN, with the exclusive level 5, which by the way, I have to repeat myself, you don't necessarily need this exclusive skill. And I also have to mention, guys, it's super important to start to watch these videos in a certain order, meaning please go back and watch the first video in which I'm describing this hero in a pretty good way, what we are expecting from him. And since I'm still waiting for Mr. Colossus to get online due to this time zone difference, why don't we do another test in which we want to try to figure out his proc rate and also his damage average, but compare of course to Mr. Crimson. And this is one thing where we really have to pay attention, is to use exclusively Navy units, because otherwise ZHEN will not proc. Because if we go have a look at Mr. Crimson, you can see right here, after every regular attack from each unit, in other words, yes, Crimson is an universal hero. So good, let's go into the sand table and have a look at the results. And have a look first at the details, because they do indeed play a role. So first, let's start by analyzing the setup. It's super important. So as you see right here, we only using exclusively Navy units. That's super important to mention. And of course, what also is important to mention, I'm using Stromoid together with these two heroes, Crimson and ZHEN. And what you can see here, that both heroes, Crimson and also ZHEN, do not have any other skills equipped. They also do not have any gear equipped in order to make it kind of fair. And we also see right here that both heroes actually have Navy perks. That's super important to mention. So the next thing where we want to have a look at is the HP enhancement, because it stacks. So let me show you that. So first we see Stromoid's buff right here. Then we are seeing Crimson's buff. Pay attention at the HP, and now have a look at the buff coming from ZHEN, which is going on top of the HP enhancement coming from Crimson. So that's super important to mention and show you guys right here. Good, let's put all the battle reports on the screen and let's see what kind of conclusion can we draw right now from this. So here, beautiful people, are the battle results from the Sun table, which you see on the screen. And before I give you the average numbers regarding the proc, I will gonna have to put the battle animation also on the screen, because it's super important to mention when we also gonna write on the screen the average damage output for Crimson but also for ZHEN. So there are a total of 400 hits, and what can happen during this battle is, of course, there can be crits, there can also be dodges, but there is also this super awesome vulnerable buff, which works as follows. So when the vulnerable buff is applied, the next hit will gonna take advantage of that, but then it gets consumed. So that's why it's super important for me to put this battle animation on the screen, in order for you to see that very often is the case. We have the vulnerable on the Sun table boss, but then either a regular attack takes advantage of it and consumes it, or in many cases, Crimson will gonna proc, take advantage of the vulnerable buff, but it gets removed, and then ZHEN comes and hits, but there is no longer a vulnerable buff on the target, therefore the damage is slightly lower. Or the other way around, ZHEN will take advantage of the vulnerable buff on the Sand table boss. Good, let's put now the numbers on the screen. So from these 5 hits which we have here on the screen, Crimson reaches an average proc of 140.8 attacks in total from 400 possible hits, which brings him to a proc rate of 35.2% approximately. And also his damage, again approximately, is 18.68 T. When it comes down to ZHEN, its average proc rate here is 149.4 attacks from 400 possible attacks, which leads him to a 37.35% average proc rate, and also to a damage output average of 17.42%. So from this perspective, I think both heroes are pretty well balanced. Of course, now I'm waiting for Mr. Colossus to come online in order for us to start to do the battle test PvP, which is a total different story because the opponent is gonna hit you back. And there we have a difference between Mr. Crimson's heavy armor shield, which is a damage reduction shield, versus ZHEN, which can literally spam this vulnerable buff on a lot of slots, and we really want to see how that plays out versus each other. In other words, that's what the majority of the players ask to see as a first battle comparison. Stromoy with Lila and ZHEN, which I am gonna use all with level 5, versus Stromoy, Lila and Crimson, also all with level 5. So beautiful people, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's super important for me and even more important for you. And as always, beautiful people, don't forget to see me in the next episode. Ciao.